Today we're going to get into something that I think a lot of us feel, but maybe feel a little guilty about. And that's the feeling of being totally drained by your own friends. So let's dive into the psychology behind why these connections we care about can sometimes start to feel, well, heavy.
Have you ever had this happen? You leave a hangout with a friend, maybe it's just a long phone call or even a group chat, and you just feel completely wiped out. Not happy, not energized, just tired. It's such a weird feeling, isn't it? I mean, you love these people, so why does hanging out with them sometimes feel more like a chore than something you actually enjoy?
Well, here's the first thing you need to hear. You are not a bad friend for feeling this way. Seriously, this isn't some personal failing on your part. It's actually a pretty well-understood psychological thing that happens as we grow and change. So, let's unpack the 3 main reasons this happens.
Okay, so first up, we've got something called the growth gap. This is basically what happens when you and your friends start growing at different speeds or, a lot of the time, in totally different directions. And while it's a completely normal part of life, man, it can put a real strain on even the tightest friendships.
Just think for a second about who you were when you first met some of your friends. Maybe back then, like you see here, you were all about exploring tons of different hobbies, just kind of figuring out your path. But now, maybe now you're laser-focused. You're committed to your goals. You know what your values are. When your own personal growth starts to outpace the friendship, the conversations can start to feel a little, well, stale.
And the really crucial thing to get here is that this is not about one of you being better or your friend being stuck. Not at all. It's just that the common ground you two used to stand on has started to shrink because your life paths are just diverging. And the sheer effort it takes to try and bridge that growing gap, that's what can feel so exhausting.
All right, reason number 2. This is a big one, and it can be a huge, invisible source of burnout in a friendship, always being the designated strong one.
So this dynamic is really built on what psychologists call emotional labor. And just like the slide says, it's all that invisible work you do managing everyone else's feelings. You're the listener, the problem solver, the cheerleader. But when all of that emotional energy is just flowing one way, out of you, it comes at a real cost.
Does any of this sound familiar? You're the person they call at midnight in a crisis. You'll listen for hours, but when it's your turn, maybe you feel like your problems aren't big enough to bring up, or you just don't want to burden them. It creates this totally unbalanced dynamic where you end up feeling more like their therapist than their actual friend.
And here's the bottom line on this one. You cannot pour from an empty cup. It's just not possible. If you are constantly giving out emotional support without getting any of it back, you are absolutely going to burn out. That feeling of exhaustion, that's literally your mind and body screaming at you that this imbalance just isn't sustainable. And that leads us perfectly into our third and final reason, which honestly ties the other two together, and that is a fundamental shift in your core values. It's all about what you prioritize, what you really need from your relationships right now.
I mean, just look at this comparison. Maybe your friendship was built on weekend parties, right? Always being in the middle of the action, maybe sharing the latest gossip, and that was fun. It served a purpose back then. But now what you might really crave is a quiet night in, a deep, meaningful conversation, or just knowing you have someone who offers real mutual support.
I absolutely love this idea of an energetic contract, because every relationship has one, even if we never say it out loud. It's that unspoken agreement of what you both give and what you both get. When your values shift, that old contract gets broken. And trying to keep operating under those old terms, like pretending you still want to go out when you'd rather stay in, that's what makes a friendship start to feel like a heavy obligation.
So I know after hearing all of this, you might be sitting there thinking, oh great, my friendships are all doomed. But I really want to reframe this whole thing for you. This isn't about failure at all. This is just about evolution.
Please let this one sink in. A friendship that ends, or even one that just changes, is not a failure. It was a success for the season of life that it was in. It gave you what you needed at the time, and you gave what you could. We have to let go of the guilt of outgrowing people, and instead, just be grateful for the part they played in our story. So I'm going to leave you with this question to think about. Instead of focusing so much on the friendships that are draining you, what if you shifted your focus to defining what actually energizes you? What does a supportive, reciprocal, truly fulfilling friendship look like for the person you are today? Because answering that question, well, that's the first step to actually finding it. Thanks for tuning in.